Do you ever feel stuck? Like nothing is happening? Do you ever feel frustrated that you've put in the work, but it just seems like you're not seeing the result that you want? Well, first of all, you're not alone. And I also want to offer you a different perspective that might hopefully help you. And that is things happen on their own time. Take this plant here, for example. It's an orchid. It's quite beautiful, isn't it? Would you believe that just a couple months ago, this plant was completely bare except for these two stems that are standing here? Well, I got this plant a year ago. It was around Chinese New Year time. Last year was the year of the wood snake. When I got the plant, it was blooming. It had all these flowers on it, more flowers than right now, and it was beautiful. And after spring came and went, the flowers slowly died out. And I was left with this plant that basically had nothing left on it except for these two stems. But the leaves were still there, and they were green. And so I decided to hang on to it. I didn't do too much with it for the rest of the year. I just gave it some water every now and then. And I had no expectation that anything was ever going to grow from it again. Well, for an entire year, it seemed like nothing was happening. Nothing was growing or coming out of these stems. And then, a couple months ago, something magical happened. A new branch came out of one of the stems. And it had all these flower buds on them. And I got very excited. I was like, wow, finally something is happening. This plant has come back to life. And I was really looking forward to the buds blooming out. And so I thought I would help things along a little bit. So I put this plant out into the balcony and I gave it sunlight every day. I thought that was going to help. Well, it didn't seem to help because the plant started to look sick. Not only did the flower buds not bloom, they started to shrivel up. And I started to panic. I asked myself, what was wrong? What was happening? It all seemed to be going so well. And so I asked myself, what if I gave it more sunlight? Maybe that's what it needs. So I put it out in the sun even more. Well, that didn't help. It was getting even worse day by day. And the buds looked like they were slowly dying. I was really worried. I did not want to see that happen. So I had to take a deep breath and take a step back. And then I realized something. You know, for an entire year, nothing seemed like it was happening. And then all of a sudden, something did happen. But I wasn't really doing that much with it. The plant was sitting inside the whole time, and I didn't do too much with it. But it was growing. Well, what if I just put it back to where it belonged and just left it alone? So I did that. I just put it back inside for a few days. And all of a sudden, something magical started to happen. The buds started to get bigger. And before you know it, it started to open up. And a few days later, I had my first bloom. And then after that, more flowers have bloomed. And that made me realize a very important lesson, which is that nature works on its own rhythm and time. You know, so often when we are doing something, whether we're trying to reach a goal, trying to manifest a vision, we may do a lot of work towards those goals, those visions. But it may seem like at times nothing is happening. But that's actually not true. Something is happening. Just like this plant, that whole entire time when it seemed like it was not growing, in fact, by just being kept alive, by just receiving a little bit of water here and there, it was actually growing internally. We just couldn't see it from the outside. And then when the right time came, when the conditions were right, when the season arrived, it did its own thing. It grew, it bloomed, but it was all according to nature's time. And you know, because we are part of nature, we work the same way. We have our own rhythm, and we should learn to respect and honor those rhythms and to allow ourselves time to grow. And if you do that, in time, I'm sure you will, just like this orchid right here, blossom. In fact, this is all part of ancient Chinese wisdom too. There's a very famous Chinese philosopher by the name of Lao Tzu who founded Taoism. And he said that nature does not rush, and yet everything is accomplished. And what that tells us is that when it seems like we're doing the work, but nothing seems to be happening, we have to practice patience. And you know what patience is? Patience is a form of love. And by practicing patience, by allowing things their time to develop, to grow, by allowing ourselves time to transform, to grow, to manifest, we are practicing an act of self-love. And I think love is the most important ingredient in life. Don't you agree? Without love, nothing can grow. And so I want to say, let us all practice patience for all things in the universe. We do the work, we control what we can control, but we need to let things be and allow them time to develop. And if you do that, if you practice patience, if you practice love, in time, you will grow too. So, I wish you peace and love and all the good things in life.